Hey class, Dr. Diaz here to talk to you about Module 7, expectations. We'll walk through the assignments, talk a little bit about repeated measures, and get you ready for this module. We're getting close to the end here. We have Module 7 and then 8, 9, and 10. We're wrapping up, I would say, 2/3 of our course by finishing Module 7. So I've got my computer here and I've got stuff pulled out and I'm going to take it one by one within Module 7. If you want to follow along, please pause the video, get to Module 7's folder, and we're going to take a look at what you're doing. This week it's all about repeated measures. This is a great topic to look at, perfect timing for analyzing data and research. You have your data by now, you sent out your surveys, you've got your results, you have all of this data to make sense of, and now it's time to pick an appropriate stats analyses to use. So why not learn about repeated measures, because it may be something you would like to do for your data. So first off, let's just talk quickly about repeated measures. Repeated measures has to look at the same population that you're measuring. This is also referred to as a within subjects measurement versus a between subjects. So repeated measures takes the same group. If I had 10 people and I measured them before they received a treatment and then I measured them after they received the treatment, how did their scores differ before and after? That's a within subjects. I'm staying with the same people and I want to see the difference in results. What is not a repeated measures is looking at two completely different groups on a measurement. So if I had group A and group B and I wanted to see how they fared, I would show the difference with a between subjects measurement. Now that's not what repeated measures is. So for those of you who have a study right now who took a pre-post test, you can use a repeated measures t-test, a dependent t-test, and you can look at the results. So with that being said, let's get into this. The first thing that we have in Module 7 is your SPSS assignment called Repeated Measures. This is a great assignment that helps get you exposed to this concept. You're going to have an existing data set. The variables are, the number is the people, like the ID of the observation, the values for those who see the distance and then those who see close, and then touch. Using these variables, question 1 says, tell me about the difference between subjects and repeated measures. Well, we just talked about that, and you should be able to have a great answer there that talks about what is between subjects about versus repeated measures. Okay, number 2A, examine the means of the 3 anxiety conditions. Okay, put your output there, look at the means. There's going to be some discrepancies or differences. Now you want in 2B, it says describe the differences that you see. Well, what that means is you're going to look at the means and you're going to tell me, what do the means tell you when it means seeing the snake from a distance, seeing the snake close up, and actually touching the snake? What does the mean tell you? High or low means. 3A says conduct a dependent samples t-test, this is repeated measures, on the variables see distance and see close. So you're going to do that and put your output there. You're going to be given a mean, a standard deviation, error, confidence intervals, significance. 3B says report the results of this test and write it in APA style. If you don't know how to do that, please use the link that says this web page and you can refer to the repeated measures t-test section to help you write that correctly. You're going to tell me whether there was a significant difference in the participants' anxiety regardless of whether they saw the snake from the distance or from up close. So was it significant or not? Please remember you are writing this in APA format. Number 4, question 4. Make up and describe a specific experiment that would call for repeated measures. Be sure to describe each level of the independent variables and describe the dependent variable. Explain why you used a repeated measures for that study. So that's what you would tell me there. So let's give a quick example of what a great repeated measures, what would call for a repeated measures. Sometimes in education we want to assess learning, and we would go into an elementary school or any grade level whatsoever, and we would say we have a science class of 6th graders, and we have a specific way of teaching science to them. Well, what we want to do is we want to take this class and we want to see how their test scores are for the first unit when they did not receive this type of teaching method. Here are their test scores. Now let's give them the teaching method for the second unit and give them test scores, and let's see if it increased or not. So a repeated measures would look at the test scores before they received a specific teaching style and the test scores after they received a specific teaching style. Now that's only one class. I could easily spin this and not use repeated measures and say I've got 2 classes, class A and class B. One class is going to receive the special teaching method. Class B is not going to receive the special teaching method. And I'm going to see the outcome between the classes. That's going to be using a between subjects measurement. So you can see how you need to specify when you would use a repeated measures. Okay, now that we've discussed SPSS assignment, you have a discussion. On your discussion, you're going to be talking to your colleagues about repeated measures. Here again, you're going to create an example of a research that would need repeated measures. You're going to tell me about it. You're going to use the same thing. This is really the last question 4 on SPSS assignment is what you're going to do for your discussion. Think of a repeated measures research design question. Tell me what the research question would be. Tell me about the independent variables as well as dependent variables. And tell me ways that the research question could have been answered using a between subjects design. Think of that. So you're doing both here. Question 4 in your SPSS assignment is like 90% of what your discussion topic is. You're going to think of a research study, tell me the IVs and DVs, you're going to show me how it could be used in repeated measures, and then you can show me how it could be used with between subjects. This example I gave of teaching methods is exactly that. I showed you how you could use repeated measures measuring one class before and after they receive the teaching method. Or you can use between subjects and measure class A and class B and compare the results between the subjects. That's your discussion. When you respond to your classmates, give them your perspective on repeated measures and talk to them about designs that could have been used to answer the research question. So have a great conversation about that. That should be fun. Okay, the last piece here, you've had an SPSS assignment, a discussion, and you have a journal. So let's take a look at the journal. And the journal is something that you're going to keep between me. Only I see it. And in this journal, you're going to have a discussion about your discussion. So, what situation is your situation in? We want to know about your discussion section. Think about it. When you have a discussion section in a research paper, you're usually showing what is needed for future research, and you're showing what is holding you back. Like, it's called implications for further research, or sometimes there's a paragraph or a section called the limitations section. If you've read these empirical articles throughout 510 and 520 with me, the discussion chapter at the very end usually has these things saying limitations of the following study where not enough time was given or funding needed more, or we need to have multiple years analyzed instead of 1 year only. These are all limitations of the current study. So we want to get you thinking, we want to get your brain going to thinking, I did a study, I'm in the process of writing it, what were my limitations? This is not a limitation of saying, I stayed up too late, I didn't have enough time because I work. This is really empirical limitations. Think of the study only. What held this study back from that you feel that could have been added? So think of your biggest limitations. How can you address it in future research? And again, the discussion section usually has a section, a paragraph called Limitations, and a paragraph called Implications for Future Research. So think about that. What was limited in the study, and what can be done in the future on your research? And you're going to talk to me about that. So please think of this in a paragraph format. Think of having a paragraph on limitations and a paragraph on implications for further research. If you need any help in that area, go on Google Scholar, look up some articles or articles you've already had from your own study, and look what they say. Notice what they're writing. They may say a limitation of this study was that we had 50 people and we really wanted 500 people, so sample size was a limitation. What could be done for further research? Implications for further research warrants a need to have a higher sample size so we can have higher levels of validity and reliability. Those types of things. Okay, so for Module 7 we talked about the assignment, we talked about the discussion, and we talked about your journal. This is again talking about repeated measures. You can have a dependent t-test or a repeated measures ANOVA. It's all about comparing differences within one group only, and that's the opposite of between subjects where you're comparing across groups from Group A to Group B. I hope you found this informative, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.